So, the Bloodline over the past 3 years have been running WWE. They have been the draws. They have been putting on great matches, good title reigns. They have done everything you can possibly want in WWE as a faction. And when you look at Roman Reigns, who's the head of the table, the tribal chief, he's the top dog in WWE. He's the reason why WrestleManias are selling out. He's the reason why SummerSlams are selling out. And then you got the Usos. People call them the best tag team of all time in pro wrestling. The longest reigning tag team champions, undisputed tag team champions. They have beaten basically every team in WWE. And then you have Solo Sikoa, the enforcer. We're talking about a guy who has the potential to be a world champion. Maybe even beat the head of the table himself, Roman Reigns, and take over the Bloodline. And then you have the wise man himself, Paul freaking Heyman. We know what Paul Heyman is about. When Paul Heyman starts talking, you better listen up because he gonna start spitting. But in this series, I want to go over the history of the Bloodline. I want to start from the beginning all the way up to the point where Roman is fighting with his family, because not a lot of people talk about how good the Bloodline is. Because it's a trend to hate on the Bloodline and Roman Reigns because, you know, they're the big thing in WWE. But when the Bloodline is gone and it's over, people are going to miss them. They're going to be like, damn, like the Bloodline was really like that. Because I think we're taking what Roman, the Usos, and what they're doing right now for granted. Because I promise you, in the next 5 to 7 years, people are going to look back and look at how from 2020 all the way from 2023 to 2024 on how the Bloodline made WWE the most entertaining show on the planet. So let's get into the beginning and the foundation of the Bloodline. So during 2020, during the pandemic era of WWE, Roman was out. He didn't feel safe with the whole, Rona situation going on. But then something snapped in Roman. He realized, I'm the face of this company. I can't let these people down. I got to take back what's mine. And he returned at SummerSlam on August 23rd, 2020, attacking Bray Wyatt, aka The Fiend, who was the current champion, turning heel and letting it be known that this is his company and this is his show now. And then that's where we would see Roman Reigns align himself with Paul Heyman. And then 2 days later, Roman Reigns would defeat Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman to win his Universal Championship. And that's where it all started. That's where we seen the greatest champion start his reign. But we also have to mention that the Usos were not a team at the time because Jimmy got hurt and wasn't in action for WWE, which let Jey be alone and be a solo competitor, which will allow Jey to be in the Fatal 4-Way and earn a Universal Championship match against Roman Reigns at Clash of Champions. And that's where we would see Roman versus Jey feud. This has been one of the best feuds of all time, in my opinion. And for sure, one of the best feuds WWE's had in a very, very long time. The emotional investment that people had in this story was just unmatched. But Jey couldn't beat Roman Reigns, the head of the table himself, at Clash of Champions. But Jey Uso would get another opportunity and was able to face Roman Reigns in a Hell in a Cell I Quit match. And man, that's one of the most emotional matches I've ever seen in my life. The way Roman played his part, being a heel, and then you start to see him cry a little bit. But we knew he was faking. Come on now, we know how Roman is. And when Jimmy came out and threw the towel for Jey to save his brother, and forced Jey to say I quit, man. It was tough to watch, man. Like, to see how Roman was able to manipulate his cousins, the way he was able to establish his dominance onto WWE and letting people know, especially his family, like, this is my territory. I run this show. I'm the reason why we're on top. I'm going to make sure our legacy stays intact, and I'm going to make sure that we all eat. Then, on an episode of SmackDown, Jey would defeat Daniel Bryan to qualify to be a member of Team SmackDown at Survivor Series. And after the match, Jey would actually attack Daniel Bryan at the request of Roman Reigns, thus aligning himself with Roman and being part of the Bloodline and submitting to Roman as his right-hand man. And that would actually be where Jey would get his nickname, Main Event Jey Uso. Then leading up to Survivor Series, Roman and Drew began a feud, champion versus champion. You know how WWE gets. And that was actually a really, really entertaining feud and a really great match. At the time, Drew was, really over with the fans. I know it was during the pandemic, but he was really getting a lot of love and he was really showing why he was WWE champion. Then after, Roman would begin a feud with Kevin Owens because Roman felt as though Kevin Owens was disrespecting his family. He felt as though Kevin Owens didn't respect Roman as champion or as the head of the table. So at TLC, Roman and Kevin Owens will have a match where Roman will retain the championship, and then they will have another match at the Royal Rumble, and a great match by Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Then this is where we get into the Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan and Edge whole feud leading up to WrestleMania 37. Roman would actually beat Daniel Bryan both at the Elimination Chamber and at Fastlane. But like I said, this was a 3-man feud, and Edge was actually the Royal Rumble winner of Royal Rumble 2021. And Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Edge will go on to main event WrestleMania 37 in a 5-star classic, in my opinion. Like, that was an amazing match by those 3 guys. But we all know Roman would retain that championship with the assistance of Jey. Jey was a huge factor in that match. Then we will see Daniel Bryan's last match in WWE, where Roman will have faced Daniel Bryan in a championship versus career match, where it forced Daniel Bryan to leave WWE and wouldn't see Daniel Bryan until he returned on AEW. And then on May 7th, on an episode of SmackDown, Jimmy would return, but not to align himself with Roman and Jey, but he will come to stand up to Roman Reigns wearing a shirt that says "Nobody's bitch." And this is the step that we see that Jimmy would take to try to, help Jey out and say, man, listen, we ain't no hoes, man. We go stand up to Roman and we go do our own thing. We don't gotta follow what he say. And Jimmy and Roman would kind of feud a little bit, but Jimmy will ultimately fall in line and align himself with the Bloodline, making them the Big Four. Roman, the Usos, and Paul Heyman now, the Bloodline, are basically at full force, and this marks the era of them really running WWE. Now, we already know Roman Reigns was already Universal Champion, but the Bloodline is all about gold. And on the episode of July 16th, the first actual SmackDown where fans were back since the pandemic, the Bloodline would face Edge and the Usos in the 6 tag team match, which they would merge victorious, even though Edge would attack them after the match. Now, remember, Edge and Roman was actually in a heated feud, and actually I think one of Roman's best feud of all time. Him and Edge, he'll actually have a 5-star banger at Money in the Bank. But this is also when the Usos win the tag team championships for the 5th time in their career, beating the Mysterios at Money in the Bank, and Roman would retain the Universal Championship against Edge. At this point, the Bloodline is basically the top dogs of WWE. The Usos are playing phenomenal heels as they usually do, and you got Roman, who's really starting to build up his character as I really run this show. This is my territory. I'm SmackDown. I'm the reason why people are here, and you really start to see how WWE are building up the Bloodline to be the most feared faction of all time. Then we're now moving into the summer of WWE, where we will see the pay-per-view of SummerSlam. But this is where we will also see John Cena return to attempt to dethrone Roman Reigns, in which a few Roman and Cena were cooking. You know what I'm saying? We've seen some, elite moments of, Roman calling out Cena for Nikki Bella.
And you see, John, 20 plus years of missionary might have been good enough for you, but it wasn't good enough for Nikki Bella.
The promos between those two were just off the charts. We will see Cena and Roman go at it, but the Usos will also continue the feud with the Mysterios. And then at SummerSlam, we will get Roman versus Cena in the main event, and then we will also get the Usos versus the Mysterios. And again, Roman defeating a guy like Cena. And I think that's one of the most biggest wins for Roman Reigns, because when you defeat a guy like Cena, not only you defeat Cena, but you got him packing back to Hollywood. And Cena even kind of pit over Roman. He finally passed that torch to Roman as, yo, you're really the top dog. Because I understand that Extreme Rules 2017, we will see WWE attempt to have Cena pit over Roman, but it really didn't go over as well. And I think this time around, it was really successful because it really established Roman as the face of the company, the head of the table. It really played into his character as, being the GOAT or being the face of WWE. Because beating a guy like Cena isn't easy. That's not something you can just easily do. So for Roman to do that, especially the state of his character, I think that was a huge win for Roman. But also remember, during the Cena and Roman feud, Finn Balor was also in there a little bit. He had returned to SmackDown. He was going to actually face Roman at SummerSlam for the Universal title, but some things happened. Cena came and interfered. Then you had Baron Corbin, broke Karen Corbin back then. So Finn Balor kind of got lost at the moment, but Finn Balor said, I cannot let that slide, and he would actually come back and have a feud with Roman Reigns, and will actually have a match at Extreme Rules, which was one of the most odd endings I've ever seen by WWE. Never really explained or really continued the story on why they had Finn Balor lose the way he did, with the whole ring collapsing and all that. But it was still a really, really good match. And while Roman was feuding with Finn Balor, the Usos was actually defending their titles against the Street Profits. And the Street Profits and the Usos, it seems like they do not miss on any of their matches. Every match they have is an absolute banger. And then we will move on to Crown Jewel. Now, during SummerSlam, at the end of SummerSlam, Brock Lesnar will actually return, and we will actually get another Brock versus Roman trilogy. And Brock and Roman would actually main event Crown Jewel, and which was in a pretty solid match, I would say. Roman obviously retained, and then you had the Usos defeating the Hurt Business in the kickoff pre-show. But this isn't the last we've seen of Brock Lesnar and Roman. Then at Survivor Series, Roman would defeat the current WWE champion, which was Big E, and then the Usos actually lose to RK Bro at Survivor Series. But then, like I said, this wasn't going to be the last time we saw Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar would actually attack the Bloodline and actually save Paul Heyman. Now, Paul Heyman, as you guys know, was the manager for Brock Lesnar for who knows how long. And there was some friction because Roman now thinks that Paul Heyman knew that Brock was going to show up at SummerSlam and didn't tell no one. So it kind of became a battle of who wants Paul Heyman. You know what I'm saying? Does Roman want Paul Heyman? Does Brock want Paul Heyman? Basically, Paul Heyman was the prize in this whole situation. But then Roman and Brock will actually have a scheduled title match at day 1. But unfortunately, the match was canceled, result of Roman being tested positive for the Rona. And this would actually be the day that Roman actually surpassed Brock Lesnar's title reign of 503 days, making him the longest Universal Champion of all time and making him the 6th longest World Champion of all time. Then we would get Roman versus Seth. We all know the history with Roman and Seth, you know what I'm saying? Seth backstabbing Roman, hitting him with the chair. And see, this is where we get into Roman storytelling. Because at the Royal Rumble, towards the end of the match, Roman would actually start to beat down Seth Rollins with the chairs. He obviously seemed emotional because he still is pissed that Seth Rollins broke up the Shield. And also, we have to give credit to Seth Rollins too. The way he came out with the Shield gear and the Shield music to really mess with Roman's mind was incredible. Like, no one was expecting that. So that was beautiful storytelling by Seth. But Roman's storytelling ability doesn't get talked about enough. When you have people that say Roman can't, tell a story, and they're flat out just wrong, because we've seen throughout the history of the Bloodline and throughout just Roman Reigns' career of him telling a story. So the fact that some people think that is just outrageous to me, I think it's just another way just to hate on Roman Reigns and, say that he's really not that good, even though he's one of the best on the planet right now. Matter of fact, he is the best pro wrestler on the planet right now, and I don't think it's close. And after their match between Seth and Roman would actually come back out between Bobby's and Brock Lesnar match and attack Brock Lesnar, costing him a WWE title win and having Bobby Lashley actually retain his championship. But then, you know how WWE rolls. They cannot have Brock going out like that. Brock will come out later the same night at number 30 and win the Royal Rumble and challenge Roman Reigns to a match in the main event of WrestleMania, making the 3rd time we would see Roman versus Brock at WrestleMania in the main event. Now we're getting into the Elimination Chamber. Goldberg would return, challenge Roman to a match. I'm not gonna lie, no one really cared for that feud. It was really just a money-making match for Elimination Chamber because it was in Saudi Arabia. Roman would beat Goldberg within like 5 minutes. But what made Elimination Chamber so interesting is Brock Lesnar would actually win the Elimination Chamber and actually win the WWE Championship for the 4th time in his career. Now, this is where we will get into the title versus title bout between Roman and Brock. Now, I don't think Brock should have really won the WWE title. I don't think it was necessary. I think we could have easily had Roman versus Brock for the Universal title in the main event of WrestleMania. But you know how WWE is. They're at a point where we want to build Roman to the highest we possibly can. And I do not blame them, bro. Roman at this time was pretty much on SmackDown every single week. It felt like he was always defending the title on pay-per-views and SmackDown. Roman was just on top of his game in 2021, and a lot of people don't want to give him his flowers because now we see people saying, oh, he doesn't show up to shows now, and he's Hollywood. But people forget it was almost 2 years straight where Roman was consistently on SmackDown every week. He was defending his title on every single pay-per-view. So don't blame WWE for, wanting to make him Undisputed Champion. Now, what they did after, we can talk about that later. But at this time, I can't say I can fault WWE for this. But WWE was building up WrestleMania 38 as the biggest WrestleMania of all time. It's a show that you're definitely not going to want to miss. And overall, WrestleMania was a pretty damn good show. It's definitely one of the best WrestleManias we've had in this past decade. And something that gets overlooked is the build-up between Roman versus Brock. After Elimination Chamber, Brock and Roman were low-key cooking. Like, some of the promos that Roman was cutting on Brock Lesnar.
You must be confused, farm boy. That title, that's my title. And you don't even realize it because I'm going to smash you at WrestleMania. And it's not even your fault, Brock. You ain't got a chance. This is my show. This is my ring. This cameraman right here, this is my cameraman. These people, these are all my people because they acknowledge me. These two right here, they work for me. This commentary team is mine because they brag and talk about me the whole time. That sign right there is mine because I am WrestleMania. I am this show. I run this show and everybody works for me.
And what Brock Lesnar was doing with his whole new character and thing like that, they were low-key hooping when it came to building up this match in the main event. We all know what happened in the main event of WrestleMania. Roman would defeat Brock Lesnar, making him the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. But the match was a little short, but the reason why is because Roman had an arm injury during the match. I think that match could have been way better than what it was, but because it got cut short, we never really saw the potential of how that match was going to go. But I'm going to leave it off at here for part 1 of the story of the Bloodline. We're going to get more in, Sami Zayn and then the Usos becoming, undisputed tag team champion and all of that in part 2, man. If you guys enjoyed part 1, make sure you smash that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn those notifications on, man. You guys are going to love this series, man. I'm out. Peace.